Hello everybody, welcome to the Daily Sip. My name is Oliver and my mission is to bring you closer to organic Japanese green tea, and today what we're gonna dive into is shaded or conventionally shaded tea versus naturally shaded tea. So we're gonna compare these two teas in terms of taste, and what we're gonna look at is actually how the taste is different between a Gyokuro, so a long shaded tea, and a sencha, which is just partially and naturally shaded. So I have this question, or I got this question from Gerard, where he was asking me, so Oliver, what is actually tasting better? Do we talk about, when we talk about natural shading, about the better and better tasting tea versus a conventionally shaded tea? So I want to dive into this question a little bit and explain you a little bit the difference, because finally it's not a question of better or worse, it's just that the taste is different, and the conventionally shaded tea, so the shaded tea which is just covered before the harvest around 20 days, this tea has just a different taste profile than the tea which is naturally shaded. Some of you might know when the Japanese started to plant tea in their country, so the monks brought it over from China, so it's originally also the Japanese tea is coming from China. Here they started to seek out for a valley which was good for the tea plants and also which gave some shade to them. So the region of Kyoto and the region of Uji there was chosen in this time. This was around the 8th or the 9th century, where the Japanese monks brought the tea into Japan, and there they started really in this kind of hilly and valley to plant the tea there, which was then automatically more shaded. And this is the case for the first tea here, which you got from the farmer Gyokuro. This tea is actually a tea which is shade grown in an area where the tea is surrounded by a forest, and where an area also where it is quite hilly. So there's a natural shading of this tea and a natural shading on the tea plant. On the other hand, we have here a typical long shade grown Gyokuro. This Gyokuro is coming from Mr. Sakamoto from Kagoshima, or close to Kagoshima. So this is just a normal or traditionally shaded tea. So here we talk about 20 days. First 14 days, the tea plants, they're shaded with one layer of the so-called kabuse, which is kind of a nylon net, and for the last 7 days, even with two. So there's no sunlight coming through in the last days. And we're just gonna compare here Yabukita versus Yabukita, so same cultivar, but just see what the difference on how the difference in taste is like. And for this, I will hop directly into the brewing of these two teas. For both teas, I brought 5 grams of tea with me, and I just gonna brew them a little bit differently. So the Gyokuro needs a little bit of more time, so I leave it a little bit earlier in the water. Both of them, I brew them at around 60 degrees Celsius, which is 140 Fahrenheit. And we just gonna see a little bit what the difference is of these two teas. As I said before, one is a sencha. Sencha, typically when a sencha is shaded, it is often called kabuse sencha, or which is other word for the nylon or for the nylon net, and another word for that the tea has been shaded. Here we talk about a normal sencha or a Gyokuro. This young man with around 35 years, he told me that he's not shading the tea at all. What he is really fond of is that his tea, kind of the production process, and to get in the production process the best tea possible. And he has a very small farmer, so he has only around 1 hectare. So this land is quite small where he's planting his tea. And he started like this some years ago after studying at the university. And he was always going in summertime to the tea fields, helping out the farmers, until he got offered one field. And then he said, you know what? I just become a farmer because I like it so much, and he liked it so much. And so he started his own tea plantation, and now he has around 1 hectare close to the region of Kyoto. Exactly, Wazuka is the area where he's planting his tea. And that's how also we found him on our trip to or through Wazuka. Good. So we give the Gyokuro a little bit more time. Gyokuro is a little bit tighter rolled, so we're just going to give it a little bit more time. And then we have a look at the leaves. I think here we are now fine too. So first brewing of both teas, and you already can see that there's a big difference in terms of color of the tea. So when we go already after the wet leaves, so just give you a look first. So these are the leaves of the sencha of Gyokuro, and here we have the strong green leaves of Mr. Sakamoto. So when we go after the taste, so here we got a little bit more of a haze smell. It's a little bit of a nutty sunflower seed. I have a lot, and quite strong on the dry grass note. This is this sencha here. And when we go to the Gyokuro, a little bit of a buttery flavor mixed with sweet corn. And we get a little bit of artichoke, a little bit of an asparagus. So seems kind of a little bit more on the sweeter and a little bit more of the savory side, this tea, and this tea definitely more on the haze flavor profile. But let's hop into the tasting and see how the taste of these two tea is like. So when we already compare the color, you can see here we have a really chlorophyll filled tea, much greener. Here we have a little bit less of chlorophyll, so this tea plant is a little bit more balanced and a little bit less strong in chlorophyll, therefore a little bit more of a golden color than really a typical kind of deep green color, which is the Gyokuro showing much more. You have also a little bit more of a milky kind of a milky texture, milky tone of the tea. Meanwhile here, this is quite transparent, so I can put my finger behind and you can really see the finger. Here, not the case, because it is much more milky. Good. A little bit coming from also that the Gyokuro is a little bit richer in essential oils. So let's try first the Gyokuro sencha. So it's a little bit more earthy. It's a little bit on this earthy tone. There's a nice kind of a drier, a little bit of grassy flavor profile of this tea. So you don't have at all this a little bit umami, savory flavor profile, which is coming out normally when you shade the tea. So this one here is quite interesting. It starts with different notes, and when I take the first sip, definitely more of a little bit the earthier, wooden, drier notes, then showing a little bit of a vegetal tone in the middle, but still staying quite on the dry, kind of on the dry flavor profile. When we go for the Gyokuro, impressive strong taste directly on the savory side. So we talk here about fruity side and the savory side. On the fruitiness, I would say we talk about the mango, we talk a little bit about papaya, but I also have a little bit of a nutty, cashewy nut flavor profile, and we have much more on the side of the kind of a savory flavor profile. I get a little bit of the artichoke I'm getting too, which I had already in the nose. It's quite a strong artichoke flavor profile, a little bit of this asparagus note. It is there, but I have a lot of fruitiness and a lot of sweetness, and it's kind of more full bodied. It's stronger in terms of flavor profile around this sweetness, this a little bit more kind of full bodied, rich flavor profile, while the sencha Very strong on this more a little bit dry, grassier note, a little bit more of the wooden side, a wooden note. It's also a little bit given by the different region where this tea is grown. In the region of Wazuka, especially for just normal sencha, I already experienced this kind of a little bit more wooden notes. Sometimes you can get it, and especially Noiki Yuma, he's playing a lot on this note because it's a nice kind of gives a little bit of more depth to the sencha, and then adding in these layers of a little bit of dry grass, a little bit more of kind of a grassy or lighter grassiness, but without going too much into this fresh cut grass, but more kind of mature summer grass flavor profile. And here the savoriness is very, very dominant. So two teas quite close to each other. Once you have the natural shading, this one here is the longer shading. Both we are talk about Yabukita cultivar, so the typical cultivar which is used in Japan. But what you can see is through the shading, really with the natural shading, there's a little bit of sweetness, but it stays still quite strong on this, a little bit more drier, a little bit more wooden, a little bit more grassy tones, but without going into the fresh cut grass. And here we really talk about the fruity fruit aspect, savory aspect, a little bit of artichoke, a little bit of asparagus. So, and also in the density of the tea, here I have much more of a denser liquid which is coming from the tea. So it kind of feels richer when it's longer shaded, and especially you have the sweet side of the tea. Meanwhile, with senchas, here we don't have too much astringency, so there's only a very, very, very slight astringent note, if ever, in the tea, but it is more on the little bit on the wooden and on the drier side. There's not too much of a citrusy side coming out, because this tea kind of seems kind of deep in terms of given a little bit more this earthy and wooden character to it, and then changing over to a little bit more of a kind of a drier, grassier side without going into this fresh cut grass, but really staying with a little bit this mature summer grass tone and flavor profile. Good. So here we had the natural shaded tea and the conventional shaded tea. So what you can see is, yeah, they play a lot on the sweetness when they shade. Maybe you've heard of this, and this is definitely the case. And this is the main difference between these two teas. I hope you like this one. This was this for today. And if you ever have a question, or if you ever want me to cover a topic, I'm more than happy to do so. Feel free to write me a comment or ask me a question anywhere on Instagram, here, or also on Facebook. Thanks a lot. I wish you a great evening. See you, and bye-bye.